While Team Blake Lively may think they have the upper hand, sources say she has no idea what's coming regarding her battle with Justin Baldoni. Now, while Blake will label that as yet another threat of retaliation by Brian Friedman, I'd say he's just doing his job really well. And why are they being so aggressive? Beyond obviously wanting the truth out, what is causing it all? Could this actually be a cultural misunderstanding? That's what the Hollywood Reporter put out today in their cover story. And I gotta be honest, it's a very neutral and interesting piece. We gotta discuss. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. If you guys haven't read today's Hollywood Reporter cover story, I urge you to check it out. Yeah, it's a little bit more pro-Blake than I think the reality is, but it is more neutral than most Hollywood trade pieces I've seen, and it brings in something much more interesting, which is this leap of faith. Did the director's Baha'i religion play what role did it play on set? And could all of this just gone wrong because of one big cultural misunderstanding? I want to break down some passages from this because I think it's actually a very important thing we need to talk about because it feels very realistic. Before we go there though, look, Team Justin has not given up and they are being incredibly aggressive because Brian Friedman is doing his job. This is what he does. It's a winning strategy and he pretty much can't lose at this point, it seems, because Blake's been unable to provide anything realistic. She thinks she has it all, but sources are saying that no, she does not. There's so much more that Baldoni and Friedman have on Lively. They just gave a taste on the website. They're showing a little ankle, but not the whole leg, if you know what I mean. I'm sure she wouldn't approve of that reference. Too sexist. The reason? Friedman is going to annihilate Lively on the stand during depositions. She thinks she knows what they have, everything that's on the website, so she can prepare for that, but she can't prepare for what she doesn't know they have. And again, they have a lot. According to the sources, they have troves more of stuff that has not been seen publicly, emails, text calls, videos. If you think Blake looked shocked during SNL, wait till you see her face during deposition. Justin kept everything. Now, why? Why would he have kept everything? That's a good question. Well, did you think he did something wrong? Or could the, interactions on set have been so uncomfortable for some, it was just because of the way he is culturally with his religion. I want to go through some of these pieces because hear me out. Here it is. So from the outset, the feud's been framed as the newest chapter in Hollywood's ongoing fight for gender equality. It's rekindled this dormant debate about SH and power dynamics. And we'll see how it plays out, but there's another possibility, one that has less to do with gender than it does with simple cultural misunderstandings. What if much of it, the alleged inappropriate hugging, which Blake mentioned in her new amended suit, the pre-filming praying, could be explained as a clash between a very specific faith-driven community with its unique mores and a much more modern post-Me Too one with its own set of beliefs and commandments? It's a good point. It's a good question. They went through and interviewed many people, past colleagues, etc., and people in the faith and people of Justin's background, and they talked about it. They went into more detail. Speaking to someone, the Justin that I know isn't capable of doing the things that he's accused of doing because he truly sees himself as his feminist. But Blake clearly got grossed out. I honestly feel like it was the perfect storm of two opposing personalities. When Baldoni and Wayfair execs hold meetings, they often start by asking participants to go around the table and share something private, something that brings them joy and has nothing to do with their jobs or their career. In certain professional circles, like those of yoga instructors or doulas, this type of icebreaker might be welcomed, but among time-crunched agents, entertainment lawyers, studio execs, Blake Lively's, folks not exactly known for their touchy-feely ways, a gesture like this nature comes with risks. In my head, I was like, I'm sorry, are we at Cafe Effing Gratitude? Said a female executive at a production company who sat down with Wayfair executives last year, including Baldoni. Why are you imposing your culture on this meeting that's being held at our offices? I can't explain exactly why, but it made me so uncomfortable. Speaking about more, even before It Ends With Us, Baldoni wasn't afraid to interject elements of his religion on the set. He did talk about his religion a lot, says a source, on 5 Feet Apart. This had shades of Scientology, but with less of the prominence and people hovering at the times. I think that's being mean. Nothing I've done makes it anywhere near the criminal accusations and things that Scientology does, so nipping that in the bud. No one's proved that at all. Another source who worked on 5 Feet Apart, however, had a very different impression of Baldoni and the influence of his religion on set. I've never worked with a male director who was so worried about everyone's emotional and mental well-being. There was an openness, an emotionality to a style that was more typical of a woman, and it probably wouldn't be an issue if it was a female director because of the preconceived notions of gender. But if you get a bunch of Teamsters together who are told that they should share their feelings, of course someone's going to ask, why is he such a freak? But Justin genuinely believes that if we do this, we'll work better as a group. There's a little bit of an arrogance to it. If it's like he doesn't want to acknowledge the world we live in, which is that most people don't want to do this kumbaya. And so, yeah, look, other sources report that he frequently would ask God for guidance during creative decisions. That's part of the reason why, two more said there was unusual amount of physical contact in the form of hugging crew members. The faith's principles and ideas are interpreted and accepted in a variety of cultural contexts. In France, they're more inclined to hug. In Saudi Arabia, less so. But clearly a very touchy, open, lovey, all things that I saw early on. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Now, Blake, allegedly, according to these sources, and there's a lot of stuff in here, the whole piece is worth a read. Now, Blake has shared with friends, allegedly, that she considers this a fight that's bigger than her, one likely to be remembered as the spark that ignited the next chapter of the Me Too movement. On the other side is a billionaire producer, a novice filmmaker, director, and a small Baha'i, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, I think it's Baha'i employees who believe they are simply living up to the moral code of their faith. Could they both be right? This is an interesting breakdown. It's the first time I've seen someone fairly try to sort of look at it from an objective standpoint and offer something that actually, to me, sounds more legit. Could this all have just been, like I said it before, there's a version of this where Justin Baldoni was just Michael Scott in The Office, where he's just saying inappropriate things, but not with any ill will. But Blake Lively, much more different culturally, more about the power and thinking that this is about the feminist Me Too movement and how dare you do this. Whereas so many women actually love what Justin does and think it's right. Blake found it incredibly off-putting, where Justin's probably all about, complimenting the physical appearance and the ability to look a certain way and act a certain way and how it's going to make you feel and healthy, blah, blah, blah. Off-putting to someone like Blake, who likes to have more control and make, ball busting without teeth comments. It's very clear that these two could immediately rub each other the wrong way. Oil and vinegar happening on the set. And that's the vibe I get. It's also the vibe I get with one of the co-stars in this, Jenny Slate, who we need to talk about. They go into an accusation and get a little bit, but I need to look more into this. And I know a lot of you have been sending me stuff about Jenny and everything else. We need to look, because the more I piece, as they reveal more in this article as they did, it does come across as, look, some Michael Scotts, of a religious Michael Scott, who's doing stuff that could definitely be uncomfortable to some, but I don't believe was ever doing it in a way that was nefarious or trying to be a predator or abuser, as she keeps labeling him. And the problem is, when you label someone like that who's not, they're going to get incredibly defensive, for fair reasons, right? And I think that's ultimately something about this topic that we need to really think about. Could that really be what this is all about? Was he just too touchy-feely, too in his feelings, too open, when all that stuff really is that SH? Or is that just Blake not wanting to be, being a little bit too sensitive is really what the question comes about? Or was he too far in some of the stuff he said and should have just owned it? That's going to be the complicated story that neither of them are going to seem to agree on. And I wasn't there, but stay tuned, because we are talking to some people who were. That's right. We are working on a documentary. I hope you guys would support it. I know a lot of you already have, but if you haven't supported our Patreon, I highly encourage you to head over there and do so. Popcorn Patreon is where you're going to get a lot more insight soon, and the full documentary, as well as Uncensored, our weekly show where we go off the book, uncensored, for more of a smaller, private audience like you guys, members here on YouTube, members on Patreon. You get to join us every week. So we're going to be there actually right now. Uncensored starting right now. I started a little late, but come over. If you're watching this right now, you can probably get the link. I'll put the link down below. You can join us on the members only Uncensored. Or if you're on Patreon, go to Patreon. I just say all this because we got a lot coming, guys. I'm so excited to tell you we got some coming. We are speaking to crew members, experts, people involved in this story that have given me so much more insight. And I cannot wait to share it to you, because my whole goal is trying to, while we're in the heat of this, create the keepsake, create the reality check of the timeline. And here's what all happened. All the internet sleuthing, all the pieces of the puzzle, so we can put it together. So later, when someone tries to change the narrative, like they're currently still doing to Johnny, we can sort of point to and be like, watch this again. This is what happened in that moment. Now, things can change, but I want to try to document it the best we can, the most honest and fair we can. And all you Patreon members, you're helping us directly get it made. So thanks to everybody who signed up over on Patreon. We have more documentaries and things I'm working on to try to make that be very valuable. And that's where all the funds from that are going to fund our new productions, which I'm hiring new crew and post and people. So thanks to everybody who stepped up. And I'm curious what you think. What do you think of this article? Do you think this could have something to do with it? I think it's an interesting point that not enough people have brought up. What do you think? And do you agree that Blake might be a little worried and why she didn't want to be deposed? Because he's going to drop a lot of bombs and receipts. Now, even if Friedman doesn't do it, somebody else still will. So I don't know what she thinks by trying to get him to not do it. But clearly Friedman's going to do it best because he's proving to be one of the best right now. Let me know what your thoughts are. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for all alerts so you get notified. And when you get those notifications, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up. In fact, hit it right now if you can and leave your comments. Speaking of comments, I'll pin, or actually, let's put it right there. On the left side, there's the members only uncensored. Come test it out. If you're a member here on YouTube, you'll click over. If you subscribed on Patreon, head over to Patreon. You'll see the link there as well. We're live on both sites.